There we go. Okay. So let me remove you guys to this screen. It makes it easier. And there we go. So welcome everybody to tonight's session. Very excited to share with you again regarding the reading rope. And I think that has been one of our biggest challenges, really understanding how it all comes together. So many different facets, so many different aspects of how reading should come together as a reading action. And so tonight we're going to share a bit more on the foundational aspects and discuss how Scarborough's reading rope can help us to really work in our classes towards improving the skill sets of our learners in an accurate and efficient way. The session tonight, we're going to first just review the reading rope, the framework for our session, and then there are 6 topics that you will be studying in your implementation review modules. We're going to look at language comprehension, the background knowledge, then the language structures of language comprehension, and then word recognition, phonological awareness, and phonics and decoding. And then we're also going to look at word knowledge and recognition and integration and lesson planning. So the whole idea with tonight's session is the information that you've received up to now. What do I do with that? And how do I create a lesson plan for my class to address certain aspects of this reading rope that we are getting to know better and better? So, okay, the simple truth. If you think about kids in your class, you can see the little boy there. Some of them can be very frustrated. Some can be quite happy. Some are wondering, okay, what's going on when we talk about reading and if they have to read something maybe for you. And I think the question is, a child might not be struggling with everything, but they might be struggling with something. A child who, don't know how to pronounce a word or don't know how to decode a word, but understand actually what the word means, or the other way around. If you read it to them, they understand exactly what's going on. But if they have to decode, there could be a gap. And I think the challenge is not always which one, but the challenge is in building everything together, in really weaving that rope together. So in almost every question or challenge that a child might have in acquiring reading skill, proficient reading skill, there will be more than one aspect of the rope. It can be both language comprehension and decoding. And our aim is to find out what exactly is it that this child is struggling with. Okay, so once again, this is Scarborough's reading rope. And it's become an integral part of us understanding how reading works. Because it shows us in one image everything that a skilled reader needs. And I was playing around today. I created some resources for you guys. And if you really start to pull it apart, it's a lot of information. But that's what I love about Scarborough's reading rope. If you can understand this picture, everything comes together so much more easier. So let's quickly look at the word recognition strands, which is the bottom part, the green part of the rope, and refers to decoding. So there are 3 strands there: phonological awareness, decoding, and sight recognition. Now, each one of those have certain subsets or areas that needs to be developed for that skill to be efficient. For instance, if you look at phonological awareness, it talks about even whole words, syllables, phonemes. Decoding talks about letter sound correspondence and the alphabetic principle, and so forth. So these strands, practiced and repeated over time, becomes automatic, and the reader stops thinking about the words, and then they can start thinking about the meaning. So as long as the decoding strands are not woven properly, thinking about what the words mean is a great challenge to any and all of the kids that you guys are working with in the classrooms. Then language comprehension, the upper strands. So with background knowledge, it's important to take note of the facts and the concepts. In vocabulary, we need to have a breadth. There needs to be precision, linking the vocabulary to understanding the words. What does it actually mean? The language structures, syntax, semantics, etc. So with each one of these strands in the rope, if we can understand those sub areas, I almost want to say, if you can understand them, it makes it so much easier to see what is the challenge and how can we assist that learner. So these strands are already developing in children the language comprehension long before they can read a single word, and through conversations, stories, and experiences. And our job is to keep building them deliberately, even as we teach decoding, and to continue to build them. I think what I've noticed in your knowledge and implementation modules that I have received, one of the challenges that we have is our thinking on, for instance, decoding training stops at the end of junior primary. It actually does not. There's a lot of work to be done in our intermediate phases and in our senior phases when we talk about even with decoding and phonological awareness. Per se. So the word recognition strand works together as the reader becomes accurate, fluent, and increasingly automatic with repetition and practice. And concurrently with that, the language comprehension strands reinforce one another, and they together weave the word recognition strands to produce a skilled reader. Now, this does not happen over time. Quickly. It takes practice, and it happens over time. So the key point when we look at Scarborough's reading rope and using this in a practical way in our classrooms is both sets of strands must be taught concurrently, not the one first and then the other one later. So that is our review of Scarborough's reading rope. And guys, if you are not sure about any of these aspects, I would advise that you go back to our previous sessions and take a look at this again. Okay, so we're going to just do a quick exercise here. I want you to, let's quickly look at the first line there, teaching the sound sh using letter tiles. Which one of the two strands do you guys think that would be? Word recognition or language comprehension? If you want to switch on your microphones and quickly let's have a quick interactive session here, you're more than welcome. So if you look at teaching the sound, shh, I see letter tiles have a E there missing. Which one of the strands do you say that would be? Word recognition or language comprehension? Who wants to give it a try?
Is word recognition?
Yes, thank you, Izal. Good answer.
Okay.
Okay, if you ask students, for instance, why do you think the character made that choice? What would that be? Language comprehension or word recognition? Someone else want to give it a try? Yes, Lani.
It's language comprehension.
Correct. Well done. Yeah, practicing reading, said, and because until it becomes automatic. That should be an easy one.
Also word recognition.
Yes, yes. So you can see these are the challenges that you might find in the classroom, and that is your first step. determining whether this challenge that the student or the learner has is a word recognition challenge or a language comprehension. But the key thing to remember is that some of the activities genuinely sit at an intersection of both strands. So for instance, let's look teaching the prefix "un" using base words. That is language comprehension and word knowledge, isn't it? So some of these sit at an intersection of both strands, and that's not a problem. The more we can design lessons where word recognition and comprehension reinforce each other, the stronger our readers will become. So one of the things that I noticed in the last few weeks that I maybe just want to share with you guys here is that in South Africa, we often, when we work with reading, we work a lot with memorization in our classrooms, and that is the worst thing that we can do. When we do, for instance, readers' theater, kids should be able to read the sentences, even if they can read it well, even if they know it actually by heart, they should still read it and not try and just say it from memory, because we are not busy with public oratory, we are busy with reading development. So keep that in mind in everything that you do. Try to get them to read as much as possible. Okay. So we all know that the simple view of reading is decoding multiplied with language comprehension gives us reading comprehension. And what we're going to look at tonight is the different aspects that you can use to build those gaps. And I want you to think the whole time, how many strands or how many exercises that address these different strands can I bring together in one exercise? Because the stronger we do that, the easier we make it for our learners in the days ahead. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through the 6 sessions you'll be completing in your own time. And we're going to give you more than enough time to do that. There will be videos. I'm going to upload this onto our WhatsApp group so that you can easily access the videos, a PDF document. So you can just click and go and watch the videos for it's short videos explaining different exercises for decoding, phonemic awareness, in whatever aspect of the reading rope. And what I want to do tonight is just take you through this roadmap. So the first area we're going to look at is language comprehension, which is background knowledge and vocabulary. Then we're going to look at language structures. The third part is word recognition with phonological awareness. The fourth part is phonics and decoding. And then we're going to look at word knowledge and recognition. And then the integration of these aspects into lesson planning. So using the knowledge and the information, oh my goodness, it's starting to rain. I can't believe this. In Mokopane, I hope you guys can still hear me. Can you hear me? Okay. Amazing. This time of the year. Wow. Okay. So this is our roadmap to address the aspects that we're going to look at in this current module that we are studying. So let's quickly look at background knowledge and vocabulary. A child cannot comprehend what they read about a world that they have never encountered. And that is why background knowledge is not just helpful, it's the scaffolding on which reading comprehension should be built. So we'll first look at background knowledge, and then we're going to look at the vocabulary. Before children can understand what they read, they need a broad base of world knowledge to draw on. And that's why teachers reading to students in their class is so important. The different discussions that we have in class, even with our junior primary kids. With the word play curriculum that we developed, we purposefully added, for instance, information about the different animals that presents the phonemes that the kids are learning. So by the end of grade 1, they have a volume of information on all the different animals, and they also learn certain values. And there's a lot of things happening behind the scenes that are building background knowledge. And that's how we should develop our material that we support our learners or students with. So strategies to build background knowledge should include pre-reading activities. I love the Afrikaans word that we use. Mind activation is the English terminology, and we use wikkel jou brein wakker. So wikkel jou brein wakker activiteite. That is very important. It's part of building background knowledge, activating and extending what children already know. Mind activation, exploring illustrations and text features, and, build anticipation and schema even before they start to read. And it's also a way of activating the brain to look for answers. So you can see it is not just background knowledge. There's a lot of cognitive development that's also taking place within this. And then read alouds, exposing children to a wide variety of texts, informations far beyond their independent reading level. We should always read at a higher level to kids than what they themselves can read. That helps to develop their background knowledge as well. Okay, now if we look at introducing new vocabulary, when we introduce a new word or a phrase, it's important to provide a clear, concise, child-friendly definition so that they can actually understand what the word means, giving meaningful, supportive examples, and create extended opportunities for them to use and discuss the words that we are learning now. So it's not just about giving them a list of spelling words and they have to go and learn these words by heart for the end of the week for their spelling exercise. Those words should become meaningful within the classroom activities for that week, so that they can really become a part of their word bank. All right. So what you're going to do for this, you'll be analyzing videos on morphology and academic vocabulary instruction. You'll be planning a vocabulary lesson for the phase that you are teaching. So those of you who are working in support hubs, you can choose a phase that's up to you, maybe a child that you are busy working with, that age group, and develop a lesson that you can use for that specific child. The purpose of our training, guys, is not to keep you busy, but to give you tools to really improve what you are already doing. Okay, keep that in mind. So, and then also create a morphology game. And we've given you, I'm going to upload that a little bit later. We've given you resources, ideas. There's a lot of information on the web. Just be aware. Marinda and myself and the team, we've been discussing the difference between a reading activity and a reading program, really building that support structure. Don't just compile a lot of activities. Activities are few and far. There's a lot of them all over the internet available, but they should be functional in the root of development that you are busy with the kids that you are working with. So focusing question to carry you into the study is think of 3 words from a text you currently use in class. How many words do you give children opportunities? How many times do you give them opportunities, and how many different ways can they use them in your class? All right. Our next portion of discussion will be in language structures. Now, there's a lot. Comprehension doesn't happen when a child finishes a page. It happens, or it doesn't, in the questions we ask, and the conversations we hold, and the language structures we model. So the key concept, we're talking about narrative language, academic language skills. There's different skills for different materials that we are reading. The key concept here, inferential language requires explicit instruction. Children do not naturally develop the ability to think and talk beyond the immediate context without being taught. So we can support them to develop the ability to articulate ideas beyond the immediate context through skills like engaging them in before, during, and after read alouds, using higher level or open-ended questions. Things like examples for informational text of an open-ended question would be, why do birds fly south in the winter? What would happen if you plant a tree in a desert? You can see we are busy with language structures, but there's a lot of cognitive skills that's also being developed within this. Prompting them to elaborate on limited responses. If a child answers with a short sentence, ask them, why do you think that? Why are you saying this? So examples for open-ended questions for narrative text would be things that, why did the character do what he or she did? What would you have done if you were in that character's situation? And as they progress and increase the complexity of the questions, and require increasingly more detailed and evidence-based responses. In narrative skills, language skills that are essential for comprehending texts, skills would include comprehending complex grammatical structures, retelling and summarizing. Guys, this we can do from very, very young. If I read a story to our grade 1 kiddos, I can ask them to retell it to me. Just what do you think this is about? Just in one sentence. Teach them how to identify the main idea and how to understand cause and effect. So a lot of support that is needed in the development of this strand of Scarborough's reading rope. A lot of things regarding main idea, cause and effect, understanding syntax, and we gave you a lot of information in your reference chapter, and I'm sure as teachers you have a lot that you can add to that as well, just to make sure that you understand these language structures should be taught concurrently with other skill sets. Remember what we said in the beginning, and we are busy weaving that rope. So what you're going to do with your study on language structures, there will be video lessons for grade K1 or grade 3 on how you can use these questioning techniques, practice a read aloud with tiered inferential questions, and map a story structure and practice a discussion protocol. When you ask questions during the read aloud, are most of them literal? Check yourself. You know, we often find an easy way, a way that we are familiar with, and we continue to do things that way. But push yourself when you're busy looking at these things, so that you can flow into inference, evaluation, and making connections beyond just the story that we are busy with. Then, of course, the Socratic classroom, open-ended questions, student responses, follow-up probing and deeper thinking. If you don't use the Socratic classroom discussion in your classes, this is something that you really should look into. If you want more information on that, I think it is included in your materials, but you're welcome to let me know. And we can use it from grade 1 right up to our secondary school learners. It just becomes more complex as we move across the different phases. For instance, you know, if you look at the foundation phase, it would be questions like, what do you see? Why do you think this is happening? There's no wrong answers. The children are just learning to think about what they are reading, what they are seeing. Intermediate phase, there could be questions like, was the character's choice fair or to whom? Can something be right for one person and wrong for another? And the students must justify their answers, not just give them. So this encourages perspective taking, comprehension, and argument construction, and so forth. In the senior phase, of course, the Socratic circle comes into play. And this is a wonderful way of developing some of these skill sets for our Scarborough's reading rope that you can use in your classroom. And if you just think about that, let me just quickly go back to the Socratic classroom discussion. You can just imagine using different types of vocabulary, working with the vocabulary beforehand, and then using it in the Socratic classroom. There's so much that we can actually do there to support the development of these skills for our learners. Okay, the next strand is phonological awareness. And the key concept here is phonological awareness is a progression, not a single skill. And it moves from larger units. Phonological awareness and phonics must develop together and not in isolation of each other. So this is where rhyme, sentences, syllables, understanding how words work with syllables, onset and rhyme, and phonemes are important. It is a metacognitive skill, guys. Phonological awareness is not just something for our preschoolers. So it's the awareness and the ability to think about sound structures of language. And it allows us to attend to, discriminate, remember, and manipulate sounds at the level of sentences, words like compound words, syllables, syllables like onset and rhyme, and then phonemes, the individual sound. And every single syllable, word, or syllable can be split into parts. So let's look at onset and rhyme. For instance, the consonant before the vowel, like k in cat. So it's k is the onset is the knock on the door, like k, and at is the rhyme, the last part of the word. So that's everything that's inside the house. So if I say k and you say at, we can put it together, cat. The same with s and at, sat. So that type of training, just be aware. I have noticed that our teachers in South Africa very quickly fall into using chanting of rhymes like be, ba, bo, be, si, sa, so, se. That has no benefit in teaching kids to read. Right? Like I said in the beginning, guys, when we are busy with reading, the kids should be able to work with graphemes on a visual, whether it's on a screen or on paper. They must be able to connect the sounds, the letters to the sounds, and the sounds to the letters, and worked with that together to build the words, to decode and encode, and even build new words. Okay, so that is the phonological awareness. I think I have a quick demonstration. This one we already did it. You can clap the syllables. What I've noticed, a very good way to teach the kids our syllables if they struggle is every time your chin drops, it's a new syllable. So it's hippopotamus. So it helps a lot for the young ones to understand or to learn how do you break a word into syllables. We talked about cat. Yeah. And you know, a lot of the grade 3 kids are still struggling with phoneme manipulation like k, at, and fl, at. And that's how it becomes more and more difficult as they grow older. We can use it in so many different ways. So you are going to watch and analyze 6 videos on phonological awareness and map the terms and then create games. And we are going to give you some resources for that. So the idea is to use that in the next lesson when you are working with kids. I just want to make sure that I didn't miss something here. Your compound words, just as important. When we look at phonemic awareness, the development sequence, let me just mention this here, is to hear and say the sounds in the word, the initial, the medial, and the final position. So I should be able to identify, for instance, in sat, that s is the initial, a is the medial, and t is the final positions, and how to blend them together to form words. So having, for instance, sound blocks, and put them together to create the word sat. And then how to segment words into individual sounds, break the word again apart, and manipulate sounds by adding, deleting, or substituting some of the phonemes. These are fun games, guys. There's a lot that you can do with that. So for instance, let's do this phonemic awareness activity like sound isolation. If I say, what's the first sound in shark? Can you quickly say, I can't hear you, but you can say it where you are. What's the sound, the first sound that you hear in the word shark? Shh, isn't that correct? Sound categorizing, we talked about that now. Initial, medial, and final. Phoneme blending, put it together. Phoneme segmentation and phoneme manipulation. If I say cat, how can you change the first sound to make a new word? Bat, or rat, or hat. And that's the type of games that you can play with kids that helps them to hear the sounds clearly. Okay. Phonics and decoding. We talked about this. Synthetic phonics, part to whole, explicit and sequential, is the approach with the strongest evidence-based. And then there's a recommended sequence for introducing letter sounds. We discussed that in our previous session. Please keep in mind the schwa problem. And you know what? Schwa does not exist in our African languages. There's no schwa sound. And that's why it's so confusing to our kids. And that's why we really need to make time and effort to help them understand. Where children add a to stop sounds genuinely impedes blending. We talked about this, and it must be corrected actively. So it's not b, it's b. Okay, you guys remember that. Okay. Just make sure that there's a difference between a child who knows their letter sound and a child who can blend those sounds fluently into words. Both must be taught. We talked about the 3 different approaches: synthetic, analytic, and analogy phonics. And as I mentioned to you in our previous session, each one of them have a place, but synthetic phonics is the recommended primary approach. That's the one we start with. What you're going to do when you look at the phonics is you will be analyzing a few videos. We will learn new skills like sound boxes or Alconen boxes, learn how to build words, blend and vowel pattern sorts, fun games that you can use in your lessons that you will be preparing. And then you will plan a term phonics scope and sequence and design a multi-sensory phonic activity. And we actually discussed this in our session on phonics. You remember writing in the sand, or even building the sound or the letter sound with blocks or with clay. Then the focusing question here is, does your current phonics teaching follow a clear intentional sequence, or does it respond to whatever comes up in the text? The final step in teaching the alphabetic principle connects students' phonemic awareness with growing letter sound knowledge. And you will see you'll be working with sound boxes where you will have a specific progression. We talk about our consonant, vowel, consonant, or CVC words. Then our CVC with the silent E words. And when you are working with these next step words like CVC and the silent E words, this is an opportune time to teach the spelling rules that go with those words. So if you're a junior primary teacher, this is your cue to bring in those specific spelling rules. Then CCVC words and CVCC words. And where students can just say, segment, spell, and reach each one of those words. I'm having a wonderful time in our workshops that we're doing for a couple of teachers here in Limpopo on phonics. So many fun games, guys. The moment I have, this could be something that we might add as an addendum to what you guys are doing. There's a lot of fun games that you can use for all the sounds. And the cue is, if you, for instance, use Alconen boxes for the kids to teach them the different sounds, and it's the same pattern that you're using. It is taking the cognitive weight away. It's something that they already know. Oh, we're going to tap the sounds in these boxes, or we're going to shift the clay balls to the different sounds. It's something that they know, so it makes the cognitive functioning so much easier, and they can focus on learning the new sounds. Okay. There are in your referenced book that I gave you, there are a recommended order of how to teach these things. Please go through that on your own time. It is important for when you will be developing your lesson plans. Then we're going to look at word knowledge and recognition. So this is syllable types, derivation suffixes, and word analysis strategies. These are tools that make multisyllabic words accessible. So the thing is, the moment a child encounters the word, for instance, uncomfortable, they have a choice. They can panic, they can skip the word, or they can break it apart. And our job is to give them the tools to break it apart every time, that they can start to understand there's a base, there's a prefix, and there's a suffix. So teaching students to recognize that words can be made up of smaller, meaningful parts, help them read, and it helps them understand challenging vocabulary more effective. If they know the base word is the core word to which affixes are added, for instance, fear in fearful, a prefix is added to the beginning of a word, like un is added to happy, or a suffix is added to the end of a base word, like less in colorless. That makes it so much easier for them to decode. As I'm talking through this, you can see this is not a grade 1 part of Scarborough's reading rope. This string of rope is woven right through, even into adult life, as we're learning new words all the time. So it gives us the tools to unlock word level knowledge. Non-decodable words contain irregular patterns, but it's interesting. Mary Jo, in her book, she mentions there that the English language is actually not that opaque as we think. And there's a lot of patterns that we can teach our students. But when we do come across words where there is not a pattern for the word, we call them hard words. And I want to encourage you here to limit the number of non-decodable words introduced at one time, because the memory load can be very, very high for our kids. And practice these words in isolation first. So, for instance, if I compile spelling lists for our grade 3 kiddos, I would add 2 or 3 hard words at the end of the list, and we'll work with them during the week. Fun games that you can play with hard words as well, in a structured way. And then we use them in text, and then we use them in isolation again. So you can pre-teach complex vocabulary words before a reading task. And this is a very important way of weaving Scarborough's reading rope. What you're going to do is you will be looking again at a few videos. Guys, these videos are 1, 2, or 3 minutes long. It's not long videos. So please take the time to go through them. They're going to show you a lot of new ways to use in teaching these important aspects of Scarborough's rope to our kids in the class. Create a word sort activity and practice the word analysis strategy, and design a sight word daily routine. Things like the syllable types, teaching students to recognize syllable types, help them break multisyllabic words into manageable parts, looking at contractions, high frequency word lists, regular high frequency words, and irregular high frequency words. All of those things are addressed within your chapter that we've given to you. Please work through them. And as you go through the chapter and you look at the resources and you watch the videos, find a word analysis strategy that you can use in your class. For instance, a 3-step word analysis strategy would be how to approach a multi-syllabic word is look for familiar parts in the word. Do you know the prefix? Do you know the suffix? Do you know what that means? Can you find the base word? Are there familiar syllables in the word? Say the different parts of the word and then reread the sentence to confirm that the word makes sense in the context of the sentence. So, these type of strategies, if you can teach them to your children, it will make it so much easier for those learners when they come across a word that they don't know. So the final part of your lesson structuring will be integration and lesson planning. Knowing about the reading rope and teaching from the reading rope are two very, very different things. And in this area, 4.6, which is part of your chapter, this is where knowing should become doing. So looking at all the sessions in this module, there must be some of them that you're curious about. There must be some that you feel, wow, this is really challenging. Maybe you don't know that much about phonological awareness, or maybe you don't know that much about vocabulary. But I think maybe you must write just quickly where you are now. Just write down, what do you think, which is the ones, maybe one that you are most curious about, and which is the one that you think will be most challenging for you that you don't know that much about. The important thing is that you need a balanced approach to foundational literacy instruction that draws on all the different strands of the reading rope. And that is what this session is all about, giving you a deeper understanding of each one of those ropes and different ways that you can implement learning in the classroom, not just phonics, not just comprehension, but to allocate specific time each day for both word recognition and language comprehension instruction in your classroom. So to help you, to assist you in doing that, you will, the key concepts is effective foundation phase literacy touches on both of them, and you will plan a full week of foundation phase literacy lessons. I'm going to show you what that will look like right now. And then it says they teach a 15-minute lesson segment to peers. You won't be doing that because it's not the in-person training. But I do hope that you will do that in your classroom. And if you want to do that and make a video, wow, I would be so appreciative. That'll be lovely to see. And then give and receive structured peer feedback. It's really good if we can receive feedback on what we've been doing and how we are implementing what maybe you can do even better. So if you mapped your last week of literacy teaching onto the reading rope, if you just think for a moment now, this past week, we're in Thursday now. If you think about what you were doing in your classroom this week, did you cover all the strands? Or are some of them a little bit thin or maybe even missing? And that is what our aim is with the session, is to help you create a well-planned, phased lesson. And what you can do in one lesson, for instance, is include background knowledge, mind activation, pre-teaching of vocabulary, discussion of text structure, and then inferential questioning. You can do a decoding word work session quickly as part of that lesson, and a fluency practice like sight recognition or work on automaticity. And there's a lot of fun ways that we can do oral fluency with automaticity or silent reading fluency. And I think our next session, almost 2 months from now, it's quite some time from now, we will be looking at the different types of reading. So you can work with both oral fluency and silent reading fluency. Daily literacy routines for our juniors, which could be 15 to 20 minutes long. It shouldn't be that much time in your class, but it should include a phonological awareness warm-up, phonics or word works, explicit instruction and practice, a read aloud or shared reading with comprehension focus, then independent or guided reading, and then a writing or a word response activity. So all these different aspects should be included. And if you can create a daily literacy routine, like a warm-up time, the first 15 minutes, something interesting that we're going to read, we're going to work with one or two of the phonics, do a bit of word work, and then a quick writing exercise included in that 15 to 20 minutes. What a wonderful way to work to improve all the different strands for our kids as we continue with weaving the Scarborough's reading rope. That's just a quick slide to look at our Monday to Friday text introduction, mind activation, vocabulary, first read, On Tuesday, we can do the phonics and the word works. On Wednesday, we can do comprehension, a little bit more in depth, fluency or rereading with a partner. And this is where your reader's theater also can play a big role. And then review word sorts, look at morphology, writing responses. And even with your spelling plan, I know that as teachers, we love to give those spelling lists and the kids study it through the week. And then by Friday, we write our spelling test for the juniors. There's so much. That is just the beginning, guys. If we do it the right way, I know spelling tests is terrible. Nobody really wants to learn those words. And, they've got to write it out 3 and 4 times. But when the words become meaningful to them, it's a different story altogether. So I hope that as you're going to watch those videos, as you work through this material that we are going to give you, are going to be so excited of the new possibilities in really making reading and weaving this reading rope an exciting experience for each one of those kids in your class. So your assessment for this session, it's not designed to catch you out. It's designed to ensure that you learn what you learn, you actually use in the class. It impacts on and changes what happens in your classroom. So the lesson plan, the video, and the monitoring system, these are the things your learners will benefit from directly. So there are different components to this module that you will be studying. I'm going to send these through to you just now after our session. I will post them on the WhatsApp group, and then we'll add them to email and send that out to you guys tomorrow. So let me quickly, I think we have 1 or 2 more slides. So this is just suggested time for every area. You can see there are 6 sessions in the module. There's a quick content, a video analysis, practical activities. So what you will be doing is using the information that you've learned, watch the video for new ideas, maybe get 1 or 2 ideas on how you can use this in your classroom, and then you will create a resource that you'll be able to use from now for as long as you need in your class. And that's the idea. I love using a structure that can be utilized for different sounds, the same structure, but for different sounds, like the Elkonin boxes. It makes it so much easier for the learners, and it's a quickly adjustable resource that you have in your hands. So we will be distributing a document with all the video links for you, with a document with all the assessment templates, so you can use that. And then also a session roadmap like this is included. Yeah, so I want you guys to really communicate with me if there's any challenges that you have. I know some of us are very busy. I know we have a couple of principals who is also part of our training. But guys, I want you to know that we are there for you. We want to support you and see how you can really complete this training and get the PD points that you're supposed to get. So for our last exercise for tonight, place your finger on the rope strand that you feel most confident teaching. And then look at the strand and see which one you feel least confident in teaching. Module 4 will stretch you towards the strand where the finger is less confident. And that's exactly what it's supposed to do. The teachers who change outcomes for their learners are the ones who keep growing, and not the ones who already know everything. So if you feel you don't know enough, that's a good place to be. I feel like that quite often, and that encourages me to learn more. So I want to encourage you guys, there's so much more to learn. I'm loving learning with the other training courses that I'm also doing with our teachers here in Limpopo, with Tim Rasinski and Mary Jo and the guys from the US. It's phenomenal just to see these people sharing the knowledge that they've built up through the years. And so I want to encourage you guys, if you feel I don't know enough, hey, there's more than enough resources to help you, and you are always welcome to contact me if there are certain questions that you struggle with and you can't find answers to them. Our last slide, our next session, we're going to look, and this is what I also wanted to say to you guys, our next sessions are going to be a lot lighter. I think of all the sessions that we have, Module 4 is probably the most demanding, because we now have to start implement practically what we've learned up to now. Looking at our next session, it's going to be about the different types of reading, which is not a very heavy topic to discuss. The only one that I think is still challenging before the end of our training is the evaluation one. But once you've done Module 4, that one is going to be so much easier. I'm going to give you an opportunity. Our next session is only the 23rd of July, so there's quite enough time. Please take your time to go through this knowledge and implementation review. Mail it to me at info@lectorsa. I would appreciate it if you guys can send me a WhatsApp when you do send those knowledge and implementation reviews in, as it seems that one or two of them, I don't know where they ended up, but they didn't end up in my inbox. So we want to make sure that I do receive it when you send it. And then our next session is going to be on the 23rd of July. I hope that tonight challenged you. And I hope that you're going to be challenged in the weeks that's ahead to think about new and exciting ways to weave the rope, Scarborough's rope, for your kiddos. And I hope that your knowledge and implementation review will give you practical assistance on how to do that in the classroom. As many and as different a variety of the threads of the rope as you can in one session. Okay, that's it for tonight. Looking forward to seeing you guys. I know we have a holiday in between. Some of you are going to have a good rest. Please be safe when you travel. We are looking forward to seeing you guys in our next session. Have a good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining. Bye-bye.